Campell Live, driven by Mazda.
Kia ora everyone. We've devoted much of this week to the GCSB bill. We're on a nationwide road trip finding out whether you support or oppose the bill, or even if you feel that informed about it. We've asked the Prime Minister to appear on a number of occasions to discuss the bill. He's always declined until tonight. He is with me in the studio. I'm delighted to have you here, Prime Minister. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks very much.
Excellent. When Rebecca Wright, our reporter, asked you on Saturday at the National Party conference to discuss this issue, you raised snapper quota. You were fairly contemptuous of Rebecca's question line. You said no one gives a damn, and you also said you probably wouldn't come on our show. What's changed since then?
Well, firstly, I'm right, so nothing's changed about the snapper. We got 124 submissions on the GCSB bill and 30,000 on the snapper. You're going up and down the country this week, fair enough. Well, I go up and down the country every week, and today was the Waikato, yesterday was Oamaru and Dunedin and the likes, and people do not raise GCSB. I have public meetings, I have question sessions, and everything I do. I probably have half a dozen meetings a day with public engaging with people. There is confusion about GCSB, I'm prepared to accept that, but actually people don't raise this issue. They certainly raise snapper. Secondly, why did I come on the show? Well, I said I probably wouldn't, but actually there's so much misinformation and so many things that the show's got wrong. Well, I felt a responsibility to come on and try and correct some of those.
Well, that's excellent. I wish you'd come on around the time of the first reading.
Sure.
That would have been fantastic. 3 months ago, because we've asked you numerous times. And it seems to me, and I've heard that there's been internal polling, that people didn't like your response to Rebecca Wright, and maybe this is damage control from you coming on tonight. Is that not the case, you're telling me?
No, we polled, as we poll every week, and we poll Monday and Tuesdays, and our polling last night was the same as the week before and the week before and the week before,
whatever.
49%.
It's great to have you here. What have we got wrong?
Well, you've got a number of things wrong. I mean, firstly, the question you're wandering into cafes and things around the country, and basically the proposition you're putting to people is that under the GCSB law, the government effectively, through GCSB, will be able to wholesale spy on New Zealanders. Factually, totally incorrect. Okay, so the only thing GCSB can do under the law, which is actually with much greater clarity and far better oversight than the previous law, is 3 things. 1, foreign intelligence gathering, nothing to do with New Zealanders. 2, it can provide assistance to SIS, Defence and Police. That's a narrowing of how it looked before.
Yep, great.
Do you know how many cases are involved in that?
No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay.
Yep.
The Rebecca Kitteridge report outlined the total number of times assistance was provided over the last decade. There were 88 individuals, 9 a year. So that is not wholesale. It's 1 for every 500,000 New Zealanders.
Let's set that aside, because I don't think terribly many people are objecting to 8C. Those who know what 8C is.
So the last point is cyber security.
Yeah.
Okay. So that, under cyber security, for a start off, GCSB, has to get a warrant.
From who?
Okay, so the warrant, like all warrants, is the same as the warrants for SIS.
From who?
Have to be signed by the Commissioner of Security Warrants, which is a retired High Court judge.
Appointed by who?
By me. Has been...
and who was the other person who signs the warrants?
Okay, me, right.
So you and a person that you have appointed to sign the warrants.
Let's take the first step back. Sir John Jeffreys was actually appointed by Helen Clark.
He's gone,
he's
right?
just retiring.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Now Sir Bruce Robinson's taken it. But Sir Bruce Robinson was the President of the Court of Appeal. They are independent. Are you really seriously going to tell New Zealanders that the way the government is going to get around this is to corrupt a judge? Because that's a very serious allegation and not correct.
Wait a minute, you're putting words in my mouth.
Well, you just said who appoints them.
Well, you do appoint them. That's a statement of fact. There's no allegation inherent in that.
Okay, but let's take the UK as an example, just to give an example of that.
I don't want to take the UK as an example. I want to talk about New Zealand. Hold on, Prime Minister. I want to read you 8A, because you've just raised it.
Can I just finish one last point on this? Okay. Because it's really important. This is why I'm on the show, actually, is to get the information out. You can say whatever you like, unfiltered, for days on end on your show.
Hold on. We've asked you on numerous times.
Okay.
Numerous.
Okay. So then after those 2 people, myself signs a warrant, and it's signed, well, actually, it's actually constructed by the Commissioner, which is a former either High Court or Appeal Court judge.
Appointed by you.
Okay. It all has to be reviewed, or can be reviewed at any time
after the fact
by the inspector. Okay. So for a start off, if any unlawful behaviour was taking place, all of that is reviewed, which it wouldn't be anyway, but would be reviewed by the inspector. Now, with the increased oversight, the inspector's office has considerably more powers, is much more transparent. The director of GCSB and the SIS have to appear before the public.
Okay.
So
Right,
other than
I want to come back to the mistake you say
can be no
I want to come back to the
wholesale
mistake you say we're making. The big difference between this legislation and the 2003 Act that this is amending is the absence of Section 14. Dan, can you whack up the graphic for me? I'm going to read this out. So this is Section 14. Neither the director nor an employee of the Bureau nor a person acting on behalf of the Bureau may authorise or take any action for the purpose of intercepting the communications of a person who is a New Zealand citizen or a permanent resident. That has gone, hasn't it?
Okay, so that was passed by Helen Clark. Okay.
Why is it gone?
Okay, so that legislation was passed, but what you're forgetting is Section 8 of the old Act. So what happened was Helen Clark passed that law.
Why has that gone?
Okay, so what happened was Helen Clark passed that law with Section 14, but she did everything that is being proposed in this law. She did that the entire time she was Prime Minister, and I followed on, and it had been done prior to that, because under Section 8, a reading of Section 8 allowed the GCSB to provide assistance.
Although that was an incorrect reading, wasn't it? And it was illegal,
No.
and in the Kim.com case you came out and
No,
apologised.
quite wrong. Actually, quite wrong. It was not illegal. What the lawyers did when they looked at, and some time ago...
Why did you apologise to Kim.com?
Let me come back to Kim.com in a moment. So what the lawyers did was they had a look some time ago, or in fact actually the Inspector General, and said, I'm just not quite sure about the way Section 14, which is specific, works with Section 8, which is the general, okay? So basically, when the lawyers went and looked at it, they came back and said, we think it's probably lawful, but it's subject to difficulties of interpretation. Okay, so take Kim.com. Okay, Kim.com was illegal under the old law, which is why I apologised, and it's illegal under the new law.
Okay.
Because what... No, don't say hello. No, let me finish. So what happened under Kim.com was nothing to do with getting it, whether it's Section 14 or Section 8. The police went to GCSB. They said to GCSB, Kim.com is a foreigner. Under your foreign intelligence powers, which sit there, which are the ones you talk about in Section 14, we want you to undertake this work. They said he's a foreigner, but actually he was a resident class visa holder, and they were totally wrong.
The GCSB
they were wrong then, and they'd be wrong now. So it's got nothing to do with
I want to read you
Kim.com.
8A, Prime Minister. 8A, Information and Assurance and Cyber Security, right?
Sure.
Okay. The function of the Bureau is to cooperate with and provide advice and assistance to any public authority, whether in New Zealand or overseas, or to any other entity authorised by the Minister on any matters relating to the protection, security and integrity of communications. Goes on to do everything that is necessary or desirable to protect the security and integrity of the communications and information infrastructures referred to in paragraph A, which is the first paragraph.
Okay, so let me tell you what that means.
It's meaningless.
Okay.
It is so broad.
Okay, no, it's not meaningless. The lawyers absolutely understand that. It's in the departmental report.
The lawyers don't understand. The Law Society has strongly opposed this bill.
We'll come back to the Law Society in a moment. So what happens under that provision is if the GCSB wanted to provide cyber security support to an agency, let's take IRD and its facility, okay? So that's the provision under which, again, they'd have to go through that process of getting a warrant by the inspector, or by the commissioner, by me, subject to oversight of the commissioner. Okay, the inspector. Okay, fine. So that's the first thing. They have to get a warrant. Do you know what happens under that? They cannot look at the content of anything in there. All they can do is protect you. So it's against malware or against a virus. So you have on your computer... Hold on, let me finish, because it's really important people understand this. So on your computer at home, you almost certainly have Norton antivirus, or you have some sort of antivirus thing that you've downloaded and paid money for. That is exactly what that is at a much higher level.
Okay,
it understands absolutely, but
let's
it
look
understands
at the kind of vacuuming that's going on.
No, but the point here is that you're going into a shop, or you're going down the main street of New Zealand, and you are saying, do you want to be spied on? If you come and ask me that question, the answer, John, is no. No, we're not. But you cannot
We're not
do
asking
that
people if they want to be
Section
spied
8.
on. I'll tell you what, let's play you some of the experts who you said aren't experts. We've got two here ready to go. So Bruce Ferguson, former head of the GCSB, Geoffrey Palmer, former GCSB minister because he was a Prime Minister like you. Listen to what they've said.
I can't get to grips with why it has to be rushed through so much, particularly given there is a large public concern about this.
I think the manner in which the legislative process has been handled has been pretty diabolical, actually. It seems to me that we needed to go into it in much greater depth, that we needed to look at the legislation much more thoroughly, that we needed the debate to be elongated, not cut off.
Okay, so let's go through those points. Firstly, is it rushed? A year ago, when we got advice from the lawyers that at least there was difficulties of subjective interpretation around Section 14 versus Section 8 of Labour's law that they passed in 2003, okay, we said, well, we got to stop providing that assistance. So that's the 88 individuals in those cases. That's what stopped. It physically stopped.
Yeah. Are you saying Sir Bruce Ferguson, Sir Geoffrey Palmer, and the Law Society, and the Privacy Commissioner, and the Human Rights Commissioner are all wrong?
Yeah. Okay, so let me...
let me
just finish.
Yeah, sure.
Let me finish.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, what happened was we stopped. So the only assistance that was being provided by GCSB under warrant, signed by all these individuals, for very serious issues, people with links to terrorist activity, people who may have been involved in either providing information that could have been used for weapons of mass destruction, all of these things.
Do you genuinely believe those people live in New Zealand?
Look, absolutely, I do. I'll come back to that in a moment. Those 88 cases over 10 years, 9 people, that assistance stopped. We then went about putting clarity into the law. So people say it's been rushed. That's what Sir Bruce is saying and what Geoffrey Palmer's saying.
The Law Society...
Okay, well, is it rushed? Okay, for a start off, the legislation's been out there for some time. Secondly, we ran a public hearing. Thirdly, there is nothing that's come up in any of the 124 submissions that hasn't been answered off in the departmental report. There's great understanding actually if you read that report.
I know. You are a brilliant politician.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Well,
and you did a wonderful job on the show tonight.
But
you did rather hope that this would sneak through under the radar. You haven't fronted. You weren't in the House for the committee stages. You weren't there for the second reading. You have been conspicuous by your absence.
Okay.
You had one select committee day that you were there. I want to go through. Can I ask you some...
Can I just go through those just while we're here?
Okay. So I want to ask you some quick questions to get yes and no answers. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So, for a start off, I'm a bit busy running the country, so I don't need to go in there
This is major legislation.
Okay, I don't need to go in there and read out a pro forma second reading speech. By the way, Helen Clark didn't appear in the Parliament to read any of those statements or go to the committee stage. What I did do was, in public, hold those sessions. And by the way, when your mate, Kim.com, said, oh, John Key won't front or whatever, even though it was a sideshow, I actually sat there...
I've never so much as had a cup of coffee with Kim.com. I've done stories on
but
him.
You've done so many stories which are absolute nonsense, and you know they are, and I've actually answered
feel
those
free to sue us, go to the BSA, make a formal complaint. If the Have you ever complained? Have you ever made a formal complaint?
I don't bother complaining, because when you have your web and do all of those little things,
Prime Minister, I'll tell you
none of those are factually correct.
You play the man, not the ball. I want to ask you some questions.
No, I'm just saying.
Can I have some yes or no answers on this? Is the GCSB using, or does it have access to, X-key score?
Well, I'm not going to answer those
Why
questions
not?
because I don't go into, and no Prime Minister has ever gone into, what techniques they actually use.
So I'm taking that as a yes.
No, don't take it as a yes. What I'm saying to you is we have in 88 occasions in a decade used basically the assistance of GCSB.
Because you see, the thing is, you're sitting here making very good reassurances.
Well, that's
telling
right,
us
because it's correct.
But if the GCSB is using or has access to excess score, then all of the stuff in your legislation is absolutely meaningless.
Well, what I'm telling you is everything that GCSB does is legal. So what is legal is they can provide...
Everything that GCSB does is legal in New Zealand.
Correct.
Are our partners able to do stuff that is illegal?
No.
The NSA, the GCHQ...
Well,
okay.
Well, I can't talk about what they do in their own country and with their own legislation. That's a matter for them. Although I have seen President Obama on TV saying that what he does is, what the US do is legal. But if you're asking us, do we in New Zealand go round the back door and ask our partners to do things for us that would be otherwise not legal for GCSB to do? The answer is unequivocally no.
Great, thank you. Will the GCSB operation, once this legislation is passed, involve or be connected to the collection or harvesting of New Zealand's metadata, whether under warrant or not? Yes or no?
No, not in the way that you would say that. So
potentially inadvertently?
No, it's important that you understand what we're saying. The only ways that they can provide information of metadata, because under the law, metadata is treated the same as content. right? So there's no differentiation in the law. So to go and look at someone's email is the same as collecting their email, right? So under the law, the only way they can do that is providing assistance. And the only way they can do that is to those 3 agencies, mainly SIS, of which they did 9 people per year over the last decade. Right.
So
the
why do you need this legislation? Because on the one hand, you're standing saying we need it because of terrorist threats. On the other hand, you're downplaying it the number of times you use it.
Let me finish one last point. So, okay, some people would say in cyber security, because you have this protection where you can't see the information, but you're protecting, some people might say that's metadata, but it's not reading information, it's not collecting the data.
So you will be accessing that?
No. What I'm saying is we provide protection, like the Norton antivirus. We do not go...
Is the GCSB using, or does it have access to Prism?
Again, I don't go into those individual points. And the point here is it doesn't matter what they actually use.
No, it does.
Why?
You are the minister. Because what we have seen in the United States, contrary to what James Clapper told Congress, is the wholesale accessing of metadata, emails, phone records, all sorts, completely against the knowledge of the American people, under similar legislation that you were drafting.
Well, for a start off, you're making a very bold statement, which is not correct.
I'm stating fact.
No, you're not.
Am I wrong?
Yes, you're
wrong. What was wrong in that statement? The NSA was doing that?
No, because you're saying that we are proposing to do things which would be illegal.
I'm saying it took place in the United States.
Okay, I can't talk about the US's legislation, but under New Zealand legislation, to go back to the point, the only time they can look at people's metadata and their information in the context that you're talking about is when they have a warrant. There's 9 cases. Okay, so let's give you this example. If GCSB this afternoon were to decide they're going to listen to every phone call and read every text message in New Zealand, do you know how many people that would take? 130,000 people is the estimate they've given me, and cost $6.6 billion. You are frightening people.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
What, are you telling
Either
me
directly or inadvertently, you are frightening people.
Not.
Well, you are.
Prime Minister, XT score, am I making that up? Its abilities,
Look,
Tempora, which the British are using, am I making that up? Prism, am I making it up? The NSA's activities, am I making it up?
You may as well read out what's on a James Bond movie. Look, for goodness sake.
Yes or no? Does XQ score exist? Yes or no?
I don't answer those questions
No,
because
I'm not asking. I'm asking you if it exists.
Okay. Well, it may well exist overseas, but I don't go into what our partners use or don't use. What I'm saying to you is, it's like saying, how did I get here? It doesn't matter whether let me finish. It doesn't matter whether I got here in a bus, I came here in a taxi, or I came here in a Crown car. What matters is I got here. It doesn't matter what techniques GCSB use or don't use. What matters is it's legal. If it's legal, then what I'm telling you is the only legal things they can do is provide assistance, of which it's about 9 people a year. And anything else they might do in cybersecurity would require a warrant, would not have access to content, and is essentially like a virus protection. That's it.
Prime Minister, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry it's taken you so long to get in here.
Well, I'm more than happy to come, but the point is, you know, we've got to have decent stuff to debate. We've been going through a process. I can't come on your show until we go through the proper process we're going through, but what I can tell you is the same thing I'd tell any New Zealander who's watching this show. They have absolutely nothing to be worried about. The security risks that New Zealanders face are real, but they have to be protected properly.
The security risks New Zealanders face are real, and they have to...
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what the law does, protects them properly.
I'd like to talk to you at a later stage about what the security risks are.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do that.
Prime Minister, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Really appreciate your time. Good. Lovely to have you in here as well.
Nice to be on the show.